This is Food for Thought with Deborah Walker. And we have back on Food for Thought today, Kristen Harper from Perfect Health, who's going to carry on the conversation with me that we never got round to last time about sugar and its actual place in our diets. Hi, Kristen, and welcome back to Food for Thought.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be on again.
I hear you've been really busy.
Oh, I have definitely been busy, and I also just recently here on Monday, I went to a natural health food store all day here in Lake Havasu and provided some education on hair analysis. So that was a lot of fun, being able to interact with people about health and nutrition.
Do many people come to your events? Are they really well attended?
Yeah, definitely. We get a good outturn.
Oh, fantastic. So little bit by little bit, you're taking over the world.
Oh, there you go. Like I said, my whole mission is education, so.
Fantastic. And I actually agree with you. I think it's truly the way it has to go if we're going to empower people to be able to take responsibility for their own health.
I agree with you completely.
So, should sugar have a place in our diet at all? What's your opinion about that?
Okay, so I break it down into carbohydrates. There's simple and there's complex carbohydrates, okay? Some complex carbohydrates are okay, but there's only certain ones that I recommend. But as far as simple carbohydrates, which I also call sugars, those need to be avoided completely. Even natural sugars need to be avoided. And this is the reason why, because we all know that sugar is poison. It can cause tooth decay and hypoglycemia and diabetes and obesity and hyperactive behavior, mood swings, cancer, heart disease, and much more.
That's a huge, huge list. And I've just read research that actually says it doesn't just feed cancer, which is where it's been very focused for a number of years with sugar, but it actually creates it as well.
Yes, yes. And there's so many problems, and there's even some authorities that say, well, occasionally it's okay, but I believe you avoid all that is harmful to the body. I believe in having a very strict diet. Why put something into your body that's harmful? Doesn't make any sense to me. And I break down these sugars actually into 3 categories. I break it down into fruit, and then also, I don't know if you've heard of non-absorbable sugars.
Mm-hmm.
But those are more like natural, and they don't have calories. They're natural sweeteners, and they're made up of like vegetables and fruits, and then also refined sugars. And as far as fruits, and this is highly controversial, and and I have a lot of debates on social media and Facebook about fruits, and there's a lot of people out there that actually advise on having fruits in moderation. Right? And I completely disagree, and I tell everyone, avoid fruits. And I have a lot of reasons for it, actually, because there's so many reasons. But the first is, most fruit today is a hybrid. Mm-hmm. So what this means is that they've been altered in some way for, like, better nutrition, or not better nutrition, but better shelf life and bug resistance, and they're actually sweetened. They have enhanced sweetness, but they have less nutrition. So they have fewer vitamins and minerals, but they have more sugar today, and that's the problem. So, like, if you go to maybe like an old apple tree or something, you'll notice that they're smaller and they're less sweet. And the hybrid fruit today has more sugar, so that's definitely a problem. And then also fruits have pesticides. Even like the organic fruits, they have pesticides, because it's really hard to grow fruits without any type of chemicals, even natural chemicals. And then I usually talk about 2 Chinese terminology. There's yin and yang. Yin is more cold, it's more expansive, it's more moist, it's more unhealthful, and I actually categorize fruit under yin. It's a yin food. And then also there's fruit acids in the fruit that have like an acidic reaction in sick individuals. And then also fruit can actually upset blood sugar as well. And that can actually stress out our adrenal glands. And our adrenal glands are so important because they produce over a dozen hormones, and they regulate blood sugar and blood pressure, and more. And most people today actually have weak adrenal activity. We see this on hair tests all the time. I'd say probably 70 to 80% of hair tests actually show weak adrenal activity. And this is what I had since I was a child. I had adrenal exhaustion actually since childhood, most of my life. I had this unrelenting fatigue day after day. And this went on through like childhood, high school, college, and then at 22, when I found nutritional balancing and hair analysis, I was able to get on the program and actually heal that condition. So that's very common. Most people have weak adrenal activity. And then also, this is really interesting. This is actually new research that's come out. But, you know, these fertilizers, like NPK fertilizers and superphosphate fertilizers, they actually, the fruit can actually pick up a toxic form of potassium that's actually in those fertilizers.
Wow.
Even the fruits that are organically grown. And then lastly, I just wanted to bring up too that fruit usually has a low etheric energy. So these are the reasons why I don't promote fruit at all. And like I said, it's it's highly controversial, but I believe that all people should be avoiding fruit.
Yeah, I tend to take my clients down to a maximum of 2 pieces a day, if they want to have it, basically. So, it's interesting that you're completely removing it, because there are occasions where I will be more hardline with my clients where I need them to completely remove it. You know, particularly if I think it's leading to a cancer picture. I love your point about the old fruits, being less sweet. I completely agree. I have an orchard near where I lived, and it had been left to go wild, and it had been there over 50 to 60 years. And basically the fruits on them, they've tasted totally different to actually the apples that you get nowadays. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And also the wild fruits, you know, the berries. I've been blackberrying over here in Ireland, and the fruits, they're lovely, they're plump, but they're not very sweet. And you know, for my palate, that's right, because actually I don't have any sugars or sweeteners in my diet. And I don't really eat that much exotic fruit, so I'm not used to having a lot of sugar. But when I taste these berries, I think, oh, they're lovely. They're like little sweets. But when the kids taste them, or my other half taste them, they're not sweet enough for them, so they think they're quite bitter.
Oh, right, exactly, yeah.
And I think it shows that our palates have significantly been trained to want to experience more sweetness, haven't they?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, like I said, it's just today the fruits are just hybrids, are just too much sugar, less vitamins and minerals. And, you know, remember I told you last time on the radio show it's about baby steps?
Yeah.
I've told people stay away from sugar completely, but there's some people that just cannot give up the fruits, right? Yeah. So they can take baby steps and eliminate slowly. And if some people have to have fruit, they can have a little bit of maybe, let's say, a few berries, you know, like the blackberries or raspberries or blueberries, or even cranberries, because they're high in antioxidants. But for the most part, it's baby steps and then eventually eliminate.
Because I understand the baby steps. I will never try and pull everything out in one go. I'll always try and crowd things out by pushing things in. And it's because of my own personal experience with a naturopath I saw many, many years ago, before my favourite naturopath, I have to say. And she had me take everything out in one go. And before that, I'd never had a problem with sugar. And I had this massive craving for sugar within about a week. I could not control my cravings. Now I see it was linked with my adrenal picture, as you were talking about. Really fascinating. And I see that my clients who've got big adrenal pictures eat masses and masses of sugary things, which you probably see the same thing. Yeah,
definitely. And that's really common. I've had some clients the same situation where they just give up everything all at once, and then they just have those massive cravings. So for some people can do it. Some people can just clean up their diet right away. And then there's other people that it's just too much, and so they need to take baby steps.
It was at that point I actually discovered Haribo sweets, which I'd never actually even known about previously. And I ate bags of them and I couldn't keep away from them. I would have fought people for my bags of Haribo. It was awful. But, laugh about that. But in all honesty, sugar's one of the primary ways of gaining calories for most people, particularly in the States, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's, most people's diets actually consist of sugars, and they, especially the refined sugars that actually have the calories. And I believe that one of the reasons that most people are sick today is because they're consuming too many sugars. And refined sugars, that was the other category I was going to talk about, which is under simple carbohydrates. But most sugars today, even including most honey, are refined. Yeah. And the problem with that is these sugars go through the refining process, and most of the vitamins and minerals are actually taken out of the foods. So they're deficient in these nutrients, and then it's very difficult too when you need those nutrients in order to digest your food. And if you're not getting those nutrients, that can definitely lead to health problems. And like I mentioned, with all these sugars, I mean, they can cause so many health conditions. And one of the most popular refined sweeteners out there is high fructose corn syrup. It's in so many processed foods. And fructose is actually one of the worst sugars, and high fructose corn syrup can actually upset blood sugar and can interfere with copper metabolism. And there's so many other refined sugars out there. I mean, what I suggest too is, people actually read their labels. Yeah. Their foods, because refined sugars consist of so much. You can look at the labels, and if you see like glucose, fructose, maltose, corn syrup, sugar, and even natural sweeteners, those are refined sugars. You must avoid those because they're deficient in nutrients, and they can cause many health conditions, and they're in so many different processed foods. They're in soda pop and cereals and dressings and breads, pastries, desserts, condiments such as ketchup, mustard, peanut butter, and so much more. And these all upset blood sugar and lead to health conditions. It
actually scares me how many things the sugars actually in. I recently moved, and because we're on the go so much, I had to lead a different diet for a short period of time, and I couldn't get away from sugar. I spent my whole life reading labels almost in despair, and really felt for my clients who basically are probably in the same position. Normally I would eat a completely natural diet, would never even go near a label because I don't have to. And at this point I thought, no wonder my clients are actually despairing about they can't seem to eat anything anymore. And it is because you can't get away from it. It's in absolutely everything that's processed, isn't it?
Yes, it's in everything. And these are some of the names for refined sugar. If you look at the labels, there's so many. I can't go over everything here, but there's barley malt and corn syrup, fruit juice, honey, beet sugar, date sugar, fruit juice concentrate, brown sugar, glucose, buttered syrup, dextrose, malt syrup, cane juice crystals, golden sugar, cane sugar, maltose, caramel, mannitol, fructose, molasses. The list goes on and on.
Gosh.
We'd be here all day if I'd go for all the names.
I think between the two of us, we probably could talk about health all day. And what's scary about this also is that there are so many types of sugars out there that they're putting onto labels, and they're saying completely natural, really good for you. And then you've got things like cane juice syrup, and fundamentally they're doing the same things in the body, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. And like the natural sugars out there, and I call them the non-absorbable sugars, and they're actually from fruits and vegetables, and they don't have the calories in them, or the sugar added to the diet, basically. So they're natural, non-calorie sweeteners, right? And some of the names that they actually consist of is mannitol is one, there's sorbitol, and then also xylitol. Mm-hmm. And let's say someone really needs sugar you definitely want to stay away from the refined sweeteners. These are actually better than the refined because they don't upset blood sugar as much as the refined sugars that actually contain calories. However, my goal eventually for all my clients is for them to completely stay away from the non-absorbable sugars, also because they still tend to upset blood sugar a little bit, not as much as the refined sugars, but they still tend to upset blood sugar. So, like I said, there's sorbitol, xylitol, and mannitol, and these natural sweeteners that don't have the calories, you can actually purchase these like at a health food store. And like I said, if someone really needs sugar and they need to take baby steps, it's best to get off the refined sugars and maybe do a little bit of xylitol just for a short while until eventually they can completely get off all sugars, including the natural sweeteners.
Because your palate does change, doesn't it, over a period of time? I know mine has.
Right.
So your palate, so effectively, I suppose what I'm saying there is that, whereas I needed very, very sweet things at one stage, now you give me sweet foods and it is just too much for me. I can't eat pineapple at all without it sending me loop the loop, as we say. It just drives my whole body. As soon as I eat it, within about 10 minutes, I feel like I'm having palpitations because it's so sweet.
Oh, exactly. And when you've had a clean diet for a long time too, and then you experiment and go back to some of these bad foods, your body just cannot handle it at all. And also what I've noticed too, if you've been on a very clean diet for a really long time, then eventually you don't crave any bad foods anymore. Like you don't even care. You don't even want them anymore. Because I mean, even some friends that I have, that are not really health conscious, I have a lot of health conscious friends, but I have some friends that are not very health conscious, and even if they're eating bad foods right in front of me, it doesn't faze me at all. I have no desire for those foods anymore.
That's really interesting because the last job I had when I was contracting, they used to put all the cakes and sweets next to me when at my desk, and they used to say, "Oh, they're safe next to Deborah because basically she won't eat them." And they pick them up and they go, "Do you not want any?" And they'd put it under my nose, and I go, "Oh no," and all I could smell was burnt sugar, burnt fat, and I didn't smell the what they can smell. All I could think was, oh no, oh, that smells awful. It's really interesting, isn't it, how it changes over time?
Exactly. Very interesting. And I wanted to bring up too, the artificial sweeteners. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs to stay away from those. Those are poison as well. We've all heard of them: aspartame, equals, Splenda, saccharin. They're synthetic. They actually contain synthetic chemicals that can cause all kinds of health issues. And there's a term called aspartame disease, and it describes symptoms of like depression and even seizures and much more. And these symptoms actually can be a result of consuming diet soda and hundreds of products sweetened with NutraSweet and even Equal. And these chemicals are just dangerous, and people need to stay away from them. And I remember years ago when I didn't have a clean diet, I used to drink diet soda all the time. I was addicted to it. I would drink it every single day, and it caused so many problems. I started to become very depressed drinking diet soda. So if anyone's experiencing any really odd symptoms, it's best to get off the artificial sweeteners even for a few weeks and see how you feel.
I completely agree with you. I've taken a number of children off the fizzy drinks, as we call them over here, and the diet drinks, which have got the aspartame in them, and the difference in their health, the ability to sleep, to concentrate, to have memory, even to not be in pain, has been almost overnight from removing it. The interesting thing I've seen just recently in regards to Splenda was the research. I was looking at research that actually shows it creates bowel dysbiosis. So in effect, you are changing your bowel flora by actually having these sweeteners as well.
Isn't it just frightening?
It is indeed, considering that the impact that can then go on to have is absolutely significant.
Yes, absolutely. And I just don't understand, even the FDA here in the United States, how they're even allowing these products to be on the market when they cause so many health issues.
Yeah, well, if you just even look at let's move away from sweeteners, which, are starting to be documented, but the high fructose corn syrup, basically it's now one of the primary causes in the States, isn't it, of non-alcoholic fatty liver, isn't it, from my understanding?
Yep, it's the most popular today. It's widely used and it's very inexpensive, and it's in just hundreds of processed foods.
It's very, very scary, particularly when it's put in foods that are labelled as they'll help you lose weight. So the low-fat products.
Right. So that's what's happening today is, people are consuming tons of sugars and low-fat foods, and look at how many people are sick today.
No one's getting any better. Now, you've touched on the juices, the fruit juices. Well, what's your consideration about fruit juices in general? Because I've seen a huge switch by several of my clients away from the fizzy drinks or the sodas, right over to fruit juices and the smoothies, the mass-produced ones, not the ones that you're making yourself. What's your consideration about those and sugar?
Yeah, so I advise staying away from the smoothies and the fruit juices and all of that. When I was at the health food store on Monday providing education on hair analysis, they have like a juice bar over there, and they make smoothies for people and fruit juices and all that. And there were so many people actually going over to the juice bar and having those smoothies, and I'm like, oh no, and I don't advise on it because actually when you look at all the different names for refined sugar, fruit juice is actually labeled as a refined sugar. And I told you about all the problems with refined sugar. And it's going to upset blood sugar just like everything else. And the problem is when you upset blood sugar, it stresses out your adrenal glands and can cause your insulin to actually rise. And when you have insulin that rises, that can lead to health problems. And also, when you have your insulin rise like that, it can actually remove minerals from the body as well. So I don't advise on it at all.
It is actually very demineralizing, isn't it? And you'll know this from the hair analysis that you do, because it strips the body. The more refined any food is, basically, the more demineralized it is, and the more the body has to go searching for those minerals to actually unpack it so that the body can utilize it. So it's stripping it from the body, isn't it? Leaving it in a deficit fundamentally.
Yes, and that's why everyone today has mineral deficiencies going on and mineral imbalances. We're not getting the minerals and nutrients from our foods today, right? So we end up with all these deficiencies in our body, and then what's really scary is that when you're deficient in minerals, especially in your enzyme binding sites of your body, then your body starts to pick up and absorb a lot of toxins from the environment and in high amounts. And then those toxins actually replace the minerals in enzyme binding sites of the body. And then those toxins can cause every imaginable symptom in the body.
Well, that's not just digestive enzymes, that's systemic enzymes, isn't it, as well?
Yes. And so basically today, I would have to say most people have mineral imbalances, mineral deficiencies, and heavy metal and chemical toxicity.
So, if our medical people know that, which I can't imagine they don't, why are hospitals having the likes of fast food chains, won't name any in particular, actually providing meals and coffee shops being established within our hospitals? And these are highly ill people who are not being fed properly or not even being surrounded by the right foods. And most of these foods are packed not only with the fats that we were talking about in the last interview, but also high sugar ratio.
I know, isn't it just sickening?
How are people meant to get well?
Exactly.
What are we going to do?
I think what we have to keep doing is we have to keep educating. We can't give up. We have to keep fighting. We have to get out there like I do all the time with the education. I'm sure you do the same thing. We have to educate people in any way we can. whether it's going out there and doing presentations or writing books or doing radio shows like this one today or just talking to people. I mean, we have to get the word out. But and I don't know your country too much as far as the government, but here the government is very involved. You know, with the FDA and the you know, the AMA, and they're just very involved. And I think that's one of the issues, actually.
Yes, I agree. Well, particularly when I see whole aisles of foods aimed at children. Like, let's just talk about cereals. Let's just talk about the beginning of the day. I won't even talk about your lunchbox fillers, but just the beginning of the day with cereals. They are now, you know, the children's ones are chocolate based, they're sugar based. They're absolutely horrendous, aren't they?
Oh, it's just terrible. I just, when I go through the aisles, even if I just look at just the ingredients, all these products, there's so many harmful ingredients. I mean, sugars, and there's additives and preservatives and chemicals, and just the list goes on and on. And
these are permitted to be products for children as well. Yes, these are permitted by our government.
The Food and Drug Administration is allowing this. They're allowing these foods to be on the market.
And it's not just about the actual refined sugar within them either, is it? It's about the carbohydrates. So when you were talking about the breakdown at the beginning, actually, you know, it's the hidden sugars that people are not even thinking about, never mind the actual sugars. And it's not just about getting your children to eat something, it's about setting them up right for the beginning of the day. And many of these cereals, 99% of these cereals, are effectively sweets, or candy, as you may refer to them in your country.
Yep. They're in everything. They're in almost every processed food out there. Soda pop and cereals and dressings and breads and pastries, desserts, condiments, ketchup, mustard, peanut butters, and so much more. It's in everything.
Apparently, when I was doing the research, you get annually about 360 pounds of sugar.
Oh my gosh.
If you are basically eating a processed food diet, and that is just a phenomenal amount of devastation that the body is receiving, isn't it?
Oh, and think about all the mineral deficiencies that person has consuming that much sugar. Ugh.
Kristen, another fabulous interview. Thank you so much for coming back on and helping me to rant about sugar, I have to say, and how much is absolutely in it in our diet. Tell everybody how they get in contact with you, Kristen, if they want to have hair analysis done.
Yeah, they can just go to my website, which is perfecthealthconsultingservices.com. You can locate me there. I have a contact form. You can reach out to me. And also my phone number here in the U.S. is 928-606-3984. And Debbie, I appreciate you letting me be on your show. I always enjoy coming on. I love your accent. I love your energy. And I just think you're doing wonderful things out there, you know, having this radio show. And really, it's all about education. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're getting the word out to help people. So thank you so much.
Absolutely brilliant, Kristen. Thank you so much for coming on.
Take care.